did. And I know that we all destined for greatness, no matter what you've been facing. It's a marathon, no, it's not a sprint. It's for all of the trials and tribulations. Just look at my mom made it. I said I was gonna change it, I did. And I know that we all destined for greatness, no matter what you've been facing. It's a marathon, no, it's not a sprint. Trying to change for the better, all my city, see the difference. From the mamas to the children, every one of us is gifted.
Good afternoon, the back community. Thank you as always for staying involved. Thank you for staying engaged. As you guys know, we are well into season 5, and the theme for season 5 is dream bigger, and spread love. Today's guest is someone that I have known for a very long time, and full disclosure, one of my alpha brothers. And I legit admire this guy and his wife and the empire that they're building. But I had to bring him onto the back community because the teaching that he does, his life experience, is something that needs to be presented to the world and empower us all. So without further ado, sorry for the long-winded introduction, but I want to introduce on the back community today our guest, Mr. Anthony Hartzog. And I'm going to be calling him Ant because that's what I call him throughout this interview. But Ant, thank you for being on the back community, man. I can't wait to dive into your story.
Bro, you already know we go way back. Thank you for sharing your platform with me and trusting me to be involved with your community for well over a decade now. So thank you.
Facts, facts. And that goes way back because we'll say I was still running a mentoring program in Albany, New York. And as most of you guys already know, be model. But Ant, when I first met him at the University of Albany, he used to come by too when he became an alpha, and he would help out with all of the young men that we mentored through model. And everybody used to love Ant just because he used to wear his Nelia sometimes, and he had one of the coolest tag names. So his line name is Rockstar. So everybody would be like, "Well, when is Rockstar coming back? When is Rockstar coming back?" And Ant will come out, do community cleanups with us, get involved in the community. So to see where you started and where you and how you've grown, it's a tremendous honor to know you, bro.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I try my best to introduce you, but what I've learned through 5 seasons of doing podcasting is that nobody can introduce you how you can introduce yourself. So without further ado, please introduce yourself to the Back Community Podcast, and let us know who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, so my name is Anthony Hartzog. Like Rel said, we go back to the University of Albany, born and raised Brooklyn, New York. Been in Texas now for 8 years. Time flies, man, and absolutely love it. And what I do today is I was an IT professional for about 15 years. I left my corporate job about 3 years ago. And since I've left my corporate job, I've been educating people on how to start local service businesses through pretty much digital, what we call it today, digital real estate, right? So teaching people how to build online cleaning businesses. And then also we have a local service business here in Dallas, Texas, which is a cleaning business. And we've been doing that now for 7 years. So those are my main two things. On the business side, entrepreneurship side, I'm also a husband. And I also have two beautiful kids, Alani and Amaya. And Amaya is now 4.5 months. And let's just say sleep wasn't the best last night, but we working through it, bro. We're working through it. And Alani is amazing, and she's growing fast. So that's who I am in a nutshell, and that's what I do.
Okay, okay. And thank you for being vulnerable enough to share with us your family. And I always poke fun at his wife because we are both a part of the Beehive. She is more part of the Beehive than I am. She's a true Beyonce fanatic, but I like to say from my male perspective, I'm a part of the Beehive too. So, but thanks for sharing your family with us. And it automatically makes me think about the legacy that you're creating, right? And legacy is a word. If you listen to Mike Tyson, he gave an interview on Fight Night, which was in your backyard. But he gave an interview on Fight Night, and he talked about the word legacy and how he believes that the word legacy is saturated now, and everyone just uses it as a catchphrase. But to you, thinking about your wife, thinking about your children, what does it mean to you when you hear the word legacy? What does legacy mean to you?
So I'll even remove the wife and the father and the husband and all that stuff. And I even think about you in terms of legacy. To me, legacy means what do people say about you when you're not in the room? And what will people say about you when you're gone, right? So when people like when we have a conversation, I always go back to how we met, but then also the work you've done for other people. So that's when I think about legacy, the work you've done for other people, but then what do they say about you when you're gone? So for you, for example, it's like when you think about Rose, like Rose always been a supporter of community, always been a supportive activist, always been supportive of helping people get to that next level, whatever it is. And I think for me, I took a little piece of that from you and obviously from my fraternity brothers, where that's one of the things they always talk about is what do you do for other people? What do people say about you when you're not in the room? And how will you be remembered, right? So when I think about legacy on the family side, my wife will like, listen, Anthony would do whatever he needs to do for his family to make sure we're good. I think friends would say, Aunt is an a-hole sometimes. He's gonna tell you what it is, but he's always going to try to support you. He's always going to try to push you to that next level, whatever it is. And whenever you need him, he's going to be there. So that's what I think about legacy. And I get a lot of that from the brotherhood, from the membership, from the relationships that we built over the years. So that's what I
Okay.
think about legacy.
Okay. All right. And to think that at 35, I think if I remember right, at 35, you and Janoka hit a milestone, which is considered to be millionaire status, right? And a lot of people always equate legacy with finances, but I like to think of legacy um, in a broader aspect too. I think about like the generational curses that we're able to break within our own families. I think that passing on a healthy emotional um, capacity to my children is part of my legacy and stuff like that. So, the word legacy means so much more to me than finances. But I know in today's world, everyone is like, how much are you worth? Your net worth is everything. So that's why I brought in that one aspect about you being a millionaire. Coming from Brooklyn, both you and your wife. Shout out to Brooklyn. I know it's been gentrified tremendously, but shout out to
The
BK. That's
Brooklyn
why I brought
kid.
my New York hat just for you.
I
But
was near my last weekend, so we're good.
okay, all right. But how has following up on legacy, reaching such a monumental milestone as being a millionaire, how has that changed your life's trajectory?
Yeah, so when I thought about the millionaire status growing up in Brooklyn, way different than I think about it today, right? When growing up in the inner city, you think about millionaires as you got the Bentley truck, you got the whatever car that was hot, you had the Mercedes, AMG, you had all of that stuff, and you had the gold chains and all of that stuff.
Facts.
And I read this book called Millionaire Next Door, and it was like the average person that owns a home over 10 years becomes millionaires, right? And they're living right next door to you. And that's when I realized that becoming a millionaire was less about what people can see that you have, but more about, what's behind the curtains, right? What's actually, what assets are you building? So when we hit that millionaire status, it was like, oh, I don't think we realized it for a couple months. And it was like, oh, shoot, our net worth is above $1 million, $1 million. It was like, okay, now what? It was like, that's okay, that's it. Like, what's next, right? So for us, it was more about, okay, we hit this milestone, we're celebrating, but it was like, okay, how do we not only make more money, but how do we keep more? So that was like our thing. Like now we're talking about buying houses, buying assets, building businesses. And then so that's what the millionaire status to me looks like now. I see on social media, you got the Lambos and you got this and that. And like if that's your lifestyle, go for it. But for me and my wife, what it became was just having more time freedom, right? Somebody had tweeted going to pick up your daughter from school, those are the things that makes me happy. I flew in from New York. I got in an Uber, went home, and I went to go get my car to drive to my daughter's school to go pick her up. And those are the things that I think are more important than the actual status. It's just about that freedom that it gave us and pushing for that next level.
That's a flex right there, right? Just to be able to say that, I have the time availability to pick up my kid, right? It means everything to me. I tell people I have my job right now because, I still work a 9 to 5 outside of what I do. And everyone knows that, listen, when it's time to go, Ty's going. They called me Ty at work. So they be like, Ty's going. It's like, listen, I pick my kids up from school every day, unless I'm out of town, obviously. And I hear that and it means something. So, having access to time, having access to resources is like the new flex. And
Mhm.
I started there on that conversation because actually, I wanted to paint a picture for everybody. And now I'm going to take you backwards because I wanted to see everybody where you are now. But I want you to walk us through this journey of, I'm going to reverse engineer it and how you created this new legacy for your life. I know one of the things that most people know you and your wife for is your debt-free journey, right? And it was one of the things that, also changed my family's trajectory as well by watching, how you guys transparently shared with the world what you were doing to transform your lives. So, please let me know, what was it about being debt free that resonated with your spirit so much, and what was that like getting your partner on board with you with that?
Two different things. So what what got me so inspired to do it was, I don't know if they can see behind me, like that Hartrimony logo is literally the hashtag for our wedding. And it was just like, we're going to use this hashtag for our wedding. And then it became our brand. And it was like, we're just going to share our story through marriage. And and there was no finances, there was no nothing. It was going to share our story through marriage. And what was happening throughout that story was I was learning more. I was getting around different people. I was getting around different networks. And I saw that there were small sub pockets of communities that were talking about this debt freedom thing and talking about money so transparently. And I was like, wait, I didn't know how much my mom made. I know how much my
Mm,
father made. We don't talk about money in the hood. If you got money, you keep it in your pocket. I'm like, wait, y'all just freely talking about money as if it's just like, I don't know, like it's just for everybody. And what that did was it changed my mindset. I was like, there are people out here sharing how much they're making, how much they're paying off, what they're doing. And I was like, I need to get around more people like this. And the more I dug, the more I went down a rabbit hole of debt freedom. And then obviously I came across the OG Dave Ramsey. And it's funny enough, my wife's father gave her the debt freedom book. I've got like 4 copies back here and I give them out like usually like hotcakes, like Nino Brown back in Harlem. So anytime somebody talks about money and how'd you start, I usually give out that book. But I went back and I found that book in one of our closets and I went through it and I was like, all right, people are talking about money. He's giving a game, and I just started sharing our journey on social media on like this is what we're starting. But before we got there, the biggest thing was getting my wife on board, getting Janoko on board. That was the hardest part because in her mind, we come from a similar background. We grew up in the same building, same projects, and debt freedom was like, we talking about money now. We're gonna talk about money on social media. We're gonna share how much we're making. She's like, you want to get robbed? Like, this is like what happens growing up. And I was like, listen, it's not like that. We can share what you feel comfortable sharing, but I was like, we have to go on this journey. And she said, Tony, if you believe this is what we need to do as a family, I am all for it. But she said, I got to make sure I know your personality type. You can't just drag the family with you. We got to do this
mm,
together. We got to have some parameters. And she pretty much drew up a contract for us. And the contract outlined a few different things. It was like, we're going to have money meetings, right? And we're going to have budget conversations. And she was like, if I want to go to a Beyonce concert, like we gonna take that money, go to the concert. And I was like, I'm all for it. You're down, I'm down. Let's do it. So that's how we got the journey started, and that's how I got my wife involved. But her thing was just like, I want to make sure we're doing this as a family, and I believe you. I believe in you as the head of our household. This is what you want to do. This is what's best for us. Then let's do it.
mm. And it was the opposite for over. It was the opposite for us over here in the Hughes household. It was my wife who was the catalyst, and she was gun ho. She's like, "You see this?" He's like, "It could be done, and we could be doing it too." And I remember Jean said, she was like, she said, Tyrell, yeah, we should do the debt free journey. I'm like, listen, babe, everybody has debt. She says, not Anthony, Januka, and them, they don't have debt anymore. And I was just like, damn you, Aunt. Okay, damn you, right? So what ended up happening was Anthony O'Neill came to our church that year, and our entire church kicked off a debt free journey, right?
Oh, okay.
Cutting credit cards and
It's
everything like
dope.
that. And Gene started 2 weeks before me, right? So I always tell this story, and I'd be like, because it was 2019. I remember because my mom had passed, so I was doing grief share classes at the church, and there was like a 2 week overlap where grief share was going to end, and then I could join her classes. So she started 2 weeks before me. I didn't have any intention on joining, but it was just like she was so excited, and I'm just like, I'm not going to be the pooper butt of the family, and I'm going to go. And I went, and it was really fun, and it wasn't as threatening talking about finances and where we were, right? And it was just like, okay, we were in a community of other people who were trying to get to the bottom of it, but I easily accepted it once I went to the course because I knew you and your wife, and I believed in your story. And I think a huge part of it is the belief factor. People sell so many stories on the internet right now that nobody believes in anything. But
Yeah.
when you know somebody, it adds a layer of authenticity. And I think that's what you guys did for me. It was just like, well, I know Ant ain't gonna be out here lying. If this is what he said he did, this is what they did. And I was just like, okay, all right, babe, I'm in it. And once we did it, that was how we eradicated $103,000 in debt. And I think for you guys, what was it, 114?
114. Yep.
114? Okay. All right. And what did it feel like? Walk me through that step where you guys were able to ring the bell or showcase that you were done. What did that feeling feel like knowing what you went through to get there?
Yeah. So it was I compared it to our alpha journey, and it was like at the end, you're like that what's next? Like that's it? Like we here, we're good. Like you sure? So that yeah, that's another story. But yeah, so it was very similar. If any Greeks out there, they kind of understand it. But from people that aren't Greek, it was more like we felt relief. But her thing was, we were told by somebody like, "Why would you try to get it done by your 30th birthday? That's such an arbitrary number." And I was like, "Oh, you don't want to give us that. You don't want to give us that competitive factor."
Mm,
So at that point, it's like, "Oh, we got to get it done by our 30th birthday," because they're like, it doesn't make sense to even try to do that.
mm.
So once we did it by her 30th birthday, we had a trip lined up to Houston with like 25 family members, and we were like, "We're gonna celebrate on this trip before we go." So we knew 6 months to that last payment, we were going to get it done before her 30th birthday, and we hit the submit. We popped a bottle of champagne. We had one glass, and then we went to sleep after that. And it was we went to sleep after that. But here is where it felt real. That next month was January, and we were doing. I think that last month we took our bonus from our job, and it was like $15,000 that we just threw to debt. And now that next month was like, okay, now we're not paying this debt anymore. What do we do with that money? And that's when it really felt real, that very next month. So that was when people asked, well, how did it feel? We didn't know. We didn't feel it then. We felt it the very next month when we were doing our budget meeting. It was like, yo, we got an extra this, that, and the third. Now what's next? What do we do with it? That's when,
Nice.
okay, we got something.
Nice, nice. And one of the mechanisms, because for those who don't know, Anthony and his wife also have a podcast as well. I always want to make sure I say it right. More than a side hustle,
Yep.
right? More than a side
Yep.
hustle, right? Because they did several different things in order to be able to eradicate their debt, right? And I know oftentimes people get stuck at that first step of like, well, what do I do or what's necessary, right? And doing debt, what is it? Financial Peace University was a huge part because they laid out the step for us. Creating your emergency fund, eradicating your debt, doing the debt avalanche or debt snowball, but debt snowballing and stuff like that, right? So one of the mechanisms that you guys use to eradicate your debt was also coming up with a business. And that business later went on to not only help you get rid of that debt, but also helped you to create a seven-figure business for yourselves and teach other individuals the process of going through that. So please, I have to, I would be doing us a disservice if I didn't ask. Tell us more about the cleaning business and how you came to know about it and how it affected your life and now how it's affecting other people.
Yeah, so that's now a huge part of our lives and our journey and our story. While we were paying off debt, we also started a business, which is not what Dave Ramsey says, which is not what the team say. You don't spend money while you're going throughout that journey. But we said if we could take a little piece of this, we could take a little piece of this debt freedom money and put it towards something that's going to help us grow our income long term. Let's try it, right? So being in that mindset around once we started posting our journey, it started putting us in different circles and different communities. And like you said, when you didn't believe that it was possible or people were doing it until you saw us, but then also being around the church community, you see everybody around you doing it. So, right, as you learn, as you grow, you're always going to get around different environments, different people. You'll start seeing different things. And one of those environments I got around was people weren't just talking about paying off debt, they were talking about making more money. And I was like, oh, okay, we can do both at the same time. Dave Ramsey don't talk about making more money. It's like,
Yep.
why is that not in the book? I need to redo that book for him, number one. So we were like, wait, there's people talking about not only just saving more money and investing more money and paying off debt, there's people talking about making more money and how they're doing it. So long story short, came across a community of people, of entrepreneurs who were building businesses. And one of those businesses that I came across was just cleaning businesses and different ways to do, not even cleaning business, local service businesses in general. So lawn care, handy, just people building those type of businesses. What they call today boring businesses, or they call it sexy businesses. 2016, 2017, it was just businesses, whatever. So came across that community, and I brought it to my wife, Janoka. She was like, absolutely not. We're not going to start a business. We don't have any entrepreneurship blood in our family. We don't have any entrepreneurship bones in our body. We don't even know anybody that's building businesses. So eventually she came around, and that was the beginning of our journey on building this online cleaning business outside of our 9 to 5s. And the biggest thing was that we were keeping our 9 to 5 jobs, keeping the side hustles, paying off this debt, but we weren't going out to do the actual cleanings. So we work with independent contractors, we work with mom and pop shops who really don't have any marketing systems, automations, technology in their businesses. And all they do is all they really know is cleaning, right? And we partner with them and they go out and do the cleaning, and we build the actual business side of things, and we handle the customer service and all of that stuff. So that's how we've been able to start that business. And then over the past, 7.5 years now, 8 years, whatever it is, we've been able to generate over $2.7 million with this cleaning business. And then on the education side, people, as we were sharing our journey on our Hartrimony page, right? People want to know more about it. And we started educating people on how we were building this business and doing it outside of our 9 to 5s. And that's done a couple $1 million as well on the digital education side. So that's where those businesses are, and that's how we kind of got started in it. But both of them just took us getting around different people doing different things and seeing what was possible for us.
Yep. It's called, what is it? A mindset shift, right?
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that I love about you because, you're always learning, right? And I'm not around you all of the time, but I know I listen to you. I listen to your lives. I listen to your podcast. And one of the things that you're always talking about is this constant desire to learn and not just learn frivolously, right? But it's just like intentional learning, right? And I have a huge library downstairs. I'm always reading. I'm always learning. So someone asks us a question 9 times out of 10, I might not know all of the ins and outs of it, but I know enough about it to have a conversation with you about it, right? Because I'm always learning. But I see that in you, and I think that because you have that sincere desire to learn, it has not only affected you personally, but it affected you personally as a man and as a human being, right? You openly document a lot of the transitions that you've gone through, and I think a lot of your process has to do with being disciplined, whether it's deciding to give up alcohol for a full year, right? Whether it's deciding to give up, frivolous spending, right? I think a huge part of your core is being disciplined enough to let something go to get your reward later,
Oh yeah.
right? So, how do you encourage other people to, sacrifice the immediate gain or what looks sexy to everybody else, right? Oh, we want to do this, but it's just like, focusing on the long-term game or, the residuals that can come. How do you stay focused on what's next rather
Yeah.
than, let's live in the moment, let's blow it, and, probably have to work very, very hard to get back to where we were. So how do you stay disciplined and focused on what's next?
It's a lot harder today to do what we've been able to accomplish than when it was 2016 when we started, because there was a lot less of it out there. You had to go look for it, and you had to go find it, and you had to go ingrain yourself in it to learn it, to be around the people. And I think the challenge today is that it's everywhere around you. Like no matter where you go, no matter where you're on social media, you always see something that pulls your attention into a different area. And I think that's the biggest challenge. And sometimes I even get in my own mind. And I got a close friend, I was talking about him, Andre Hatchett, and he's like, whenever you're not taking action, that means you're focused on you're taking in too much information from other people. You're seeing too much. He's like, turn on to social media, block who you need to block, mute who you need to mute for a couple weeks, get back in your zone, get back in your bag, and kind of get back on that road to where you want to go. So I would say one of the biggest things is probably accountability, right? Having someone to keep you accountable to your goals. And in order to have someone that's going to keep you accountable, you got to put it out there. And that's a scary part too, because if you say I got a goal of paying off my house in 3, 5, 7 years, you put it out there and you tell people, now you're putting yourself in a vulnerable situation where you're like, well, what happens if I don't accomplish this goal? Will people laugh at me? Will they remember me? Will they think I'm a failure? So putting your goals out there would probably be one of the biggest things, but then also creating accountability, whether it's friends, whether it's family, or whether it's just extended strangers online. And I think that's how we've been able to get to where we've been able to get to, is putting our goals out there and then finding accountability partners where people are going to be like, yo, I got a frat brother right now, and he's holding me to this goal, and he'll hit me up every 3, 4 weeks, like, yo, where you at? And I'm like, that's slack. He's like, I'm gonna hit you up a little, instead of 3, 4 weeks, let's do 1 and 2 weeks, right? So those are probably the two biggest things that we've been able to use to keep us focused on that narrow, putting our goals out there and bring other people in externally to kind of hold that fire to our backs.
Okay. Okay. All right. And and staying consistent with what you're doing, right? Obviously, like you said, the networks that you're in right now has been a huge part of continuing that drive, right? And I always tell people, I live by this motto, like audit your circle, right? I don't believe in just keeping people in my circle just because, I got the most years with you. I've known you since the since the sandbox. But it's like, are we growing together, right? Can I be vulnerable enough with you as a human, to grow with you? Are you opening up to me? Am I opening up to you? And that's how I look at the circles and the networks that I'm a part of, because I think, I'm 41 now. And it's like, I think if we're not learning, I'm always like, what are we doing?
What we
Right?
doing if we're not learning, we're not
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah. What are we doing here? Right. So, but as your network has expanded, like you said, one of the add-ons to getting rid of debt through that network, you also learn that you can actually increase your income at the same time as getting rid of your debt, and that had to do with exposure, right? How important is it, how would you encourage an individual to expand their network, and to get out of their comfort zone? How important is that dynamic?
Bro, that's been everything for me. It's like growing up in any city that you're in, you think everything is a scam, you think everybody's out to get you think everybody is coming for something, and in the case it might be, right? They might be trying to scam you, they might want something from you, they might be trying to get you, right? I'm not saying that's not the case. I want to be very clear. But as you grow, as you learn, you start being able to decipher certain people. My wife is really good at that. I'm more of a I'll give you my trust, and if you lose it, you lose it. Like you got it. But my hands are open. You can take whatever you need, whatever you want. But once you lose it, that's it. She's more of a, we close fists, and you got to open up the hand week by week, month by month. So that's probably been the biggest part. But I would say finding in order to be able to get to that point, number one, you got to be able to be vulnerable, put yourself out there, put your journey out there. How do you find those type of networks? I would say the easiest place right now, before we even go to social media, can you audit your circle around you, right? I'm always bringing ideas. And I know at this point, my friends are like, listen, we're not starting businesses. And like, it's been 8 years, bro, but I'll put it out there. But I don't talk about it as much. If it comes up, they ask me questions. I never want to be that person that pushes somebody, into a way that someplace they don't want to go. But I always put the opportunities out there. So I would say start with your inner circle, start with your friends, start with your family, and I would say take the conversation from the day-to-day gossip, right? Like who's doing what, the Kendrick, the Drakes. Can we talk about something else? Can we talk about money? Can we talk about entrepreneurship? Can we talk about family? Can we talk about business? And seeing where the conversation goes. And you might realize, you know what? I know these guys, I know these girls. This ain't that, right? And then I would say try to explore other means. There's a lot of, you go to meetup.com and find different groups online. But I would probably say the easiest place is to find is on social media. You type in what you're looking for. What I do now, it's a lot of social media. A lot of people that are in my networking circle, entrepreneurship, business, it's social media. I got my friends, we talk about the Kendricks and the Drakes and the family stuff. And then I got my business partners, I got my associates, I got people that talk about that type of stuff with. I just came back from New York at a creators event. And I was one of the oldest people in that room at what? I'm 30, I think I'm 30, 37. I'm 37 now. Most kids are 20 to 25. They are doing crazy $500K, $1 million in a month. I met a kid at 19 doing $1 million in a month, like 12 months consecutively. And you get in that room and you're realizing like there are people here who know things that are almost half your age that you could learn from. So I'm over here like, yo, how you doing that? Let me exchange some value. Let me create some impact. And now I might not be able to tell him how to make $1 million in a month, but I can tell him, about marriage. I can tell him about life. I can tell him how to manage your money, finances. I can tell you how it is to be an entrepreneur that's closing in on 40, right? He was like, I'm brand new to money. How do I manage my circle, right? And so we were able to do a value exchange where it wasn't like I'm teaching you how to make more money, but you're teaching me the game on this, and I'm showing you how to manage it or how to do the other things. So audit your circle, like you said, finding out friends and family are interested, and then I'll probably say getting online, typing in what you're looking for, posting content, posting your story and sharing it, and you'll come across people who are like you.
Okay. What is it? There's a you can always find your people. So,
Always.
or you can always find your people. And sometimes we try to force people to be our people that aren't designed to be our people. And you can keep trying to fight it, but God sometimes be sending you other places. I'm trying to tell you that's not it. You keep going if you want to, but he'd be like, I'm trying to tell you that's not it. That's why it's not working. So, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
one of my closest guys right now, like I mentioned earlier, Andre. I'm going to this event in New York, Brooklyn, and I'm like, I'm not in a networking space right now. My mindset's not there. He's like, yo, I'll fly out there and meet you. And he came out from Atlanta, and he was able to network for me, and I'm kind of winging it off his back, right? Because I'm like, I'm not in mental space right now. I'm tired, kids, and all of that. So having those type of people around you who's willing to, just come out and just help you out whenever you need it, right? So, and that was an online friendship. He saw a post like, yo, how can I add value to you? And we've built a partnership and a friendship ever since.
I love it. Now that is dope. That is dope.
Man, he's amazing, man. But like I said, you gotta be vulnerable enough to put yourself out there. And if I wouldn't have, started sharing our story, putting ourselves out there, he would have never came across us, and vice versa.
Okay. Listen, I gotta ask you. Well, I'm gonna take you through this thing that I call rapid fire. It's
Okay.
60 seconds of me asking you some questions to get to know Ant as a person. And I love to do this with all of my guests because I think the older we get, we lose our childlike value. But when you have kids, you gain it back. You got to. I'll be watching all of the kids' movies. I can't wait for Sonic. Listen, all my kids know when every movie is coming out. But anywho,
I have to go
this
watch Moana too. I watched Moana 1.
exactly.
It's not bad. I'm gonna go watch him. Alani's not old enough to watch a full movie, but I'm like, I'm about to go watch this joint myself.
Listen. Be like, Tyrell, where you go? I'm going to movies to see what? Why are you judging me? Why are you judging me? All right. But I'm gonna take you through a series called Rapid Fire. 60 seconds of me asking you nothing to get you in trouble, but asking you questions to find out more about who you are as a person. And we don't really get a chance to do this on a day-to-day basis anymore. Are you ready?
I guess so. We'll see.
All right. Let me see. First question: if you had to choose your favorite sneaker, what would it be?
Just bought my favorite sneaker again. Air Jordan Cement Threes.
All right, all right. If you had a favorite movie that you went to that you find yourself quoting the most, what would it be?
Favorite movie that I quote the most would probably be me and my boy Khalil. It would probably be Step Brothers. That we just be throwing out those random quotes out there. So that's one. But my favorite movie, I'm a huge Marvel fan, so Iron Man 2, and
Mm,
I'm big into John Wick. I've watched that series over and over again. Every time it's on TNT or TBS, I'm watching it on a Saturday, the whole thing through.
nice, nice. If you had to choose your favorite cheat snack, let's say you're having a bad day and you need a pick me upper,
Mhm.
right? What's your go-to food that makes Ant feel better?
Go-to food that makes me feel better, and it's a snack. What would be a snack? I'm big into sweets. So if I got cookies, we had Chips Ahoy in there, and that's the problem. You can't have that stuff in your house. You try to stay disciplined. That's one thing about being disciplined. You can't have the stuff in your house. It can't be reachable. We can't see it. So I would say cookies, sweets, chocolates, get them out the house because they can't be, because I'm dogging it. You
Okay.
guys got nothing but cake down there?
Yes, we listen.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I never had it, and we moved out here, and that's been my cake. If I go to an event and they got that cake, they're like, "Yo, Ant, you get the last piece because your piece is gonna be the biggest, and we gonna get you out the way."
On top of the fact you in Texas and that's barbecue country. So I'm in heaven whenever I come in your backyard. So yeah. Let me see.
That's my go-to sweets.
Last question for you, man. For rapid fire would have to be what is your biggest fear and why?
Oh, my biggest fear. I think I used to be afraid of death, and I think I come to not. I don't want to say come to accept it, but I'm like, this is natural. Um, my biggest fear, I would probably say, is letting my family down. And that could be financially, that could be emotionally, that could be mentally. Um, that could, man, it's so many ways you could probably not many ways you can let your family down, but that's one of my biggest fears. And I think that just comes from just growing up in a household where I lost my father at a young age and seeing my mother do things by herself. Like I never want to put my wife in a situation where she has to try to figure this out on her own. I mean, even though she has an amazing family, I'm sure they'll be fine without me. But that's one of my biggest fears.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. I appreciate you being vulnerable enough to go through rapid fire with us. I always gotta tell everybody, don't worry, I'm not gonna ask no, questions that'll put you on a Budweiser hot seat. But thank you for doing that. But in saying that, you brought up something uh, you made a statement about death, right? And that it used to be your biggest fear. It isn't necessarily anymore. What was it that helped you to come to grips with the inevitability of death?
I would probably say losing my best friend Sajad a couple years back to sickle cell and seeing him enjoy his life up until then. And I never knew we knew he had sickle cell, but I don't think we knew the possibilities of it. I think you hear about it from time to time, but you were like, oh, people, sickle cell's a thing. But I never really knew how bad it could get. And
Mm,
people die from it all the time. And then also losing my youngest brother from the incident. And him not even being 30 yet just made me realize, life is too short. So seeing my best friend who knew he was going to pass at the why he wasn't going to make it to 40, and him knowing that, and me not nobody else knowing that, probably his mom, and just seeing him enjoy life, and then my youngest brother not knowing he was going to pass, but then also, seeing him enjoy life, to the fullest, So I think those are probably the two events that helped me come to realize it. It's a lot more real than we want to believe sometimes.
I like it, and I think it also goes back to what we said earlier about auditing your circle, right? It's just like I don't want nobody to do life with me that can't that I can't do life with. Like when you
Mm.
start going through real experiences, and you be like, wow, like I said, I think when my mom passed in 2019, and I had lost a lot of people up until that point, but never that close, right? But it forced me to look at how I show up for other people, right? And I think that when you go through those experiences, like you just brought up two traumatic experiences for you that have ultimately, in my opinion, it's going to force you to live life abundantly, right? And it's just like I said, two different scales of what can happen, knowing what's happening and then not knowing, but still realizing that life has to be lived forward, going forward. And it's the same thing. It's like when I think when you lose someone that you love, for most of us, right? It does empower us or encourage us or let us know that life is finite and to live life and to enjoy life, and it's not to be lived with everybody. Like
Absolutely.
I used to have this huge circle, and I don't like a huge circle anymore. I think friends and family are liabilities in a lot of ways. I say it all the time, right? So I'm okay with my small circles of where they are, because when I jump out the window, because I'm still the same Tyrell in a lot of ways. So if something happens, I don't want to be jumping out the window for anybody. So
Right.
yeah. But listen, man, I got one last question for you before I let you go, and this is probably my favorite question that I've asked everybody on the podcast for the last 5 seasons. And the reason why I want to ask this to you is because I think you exemplify a lot of it. But anywho, um, if you had to define success for you. You know what I mean? Going through your experiences and where you are now and the levels and the heights that you've grown to, how would you define success?
And going back to my friend Andre, and he's old. He's actually about your age, and he always reminds me. He's like, "Man, you got everything you wanted to have when you were 20, when you were 25, when you were 30, and you got what everyone else wants to have, whether they're 35, 40, 50, and you want the family, you want the kids, you want the wife, you want the house, you want to be secure. And sometimes it takes that person to remind me that I'm already successful.
Mm,
And monetary, net worth aside, like having a healthy family, having healthy kids, having a healthy wife, and you being healthy and being able to move and that freedom, that's what I would define success as today. A couple years back, it was the millionaire net worth, and it's not that anymore. And I have to be reminded that we're already successful, and it's like, what are we chasing? What are we doing? Why are we doing this? And that's always my pillar to come back to. Is like we already have everything we want. Why are we doing what we're doing now? And that's the questions we're always asking ourselves. What's the why?
gotcha.
Is it more
What's
money? Is it more
the
notary? Is
story?
it more brand? Is it more impact? Right. So that's really where we are. And I got to be reminded of that, because it's like I want to keep going. I want to do this and I want to do this. Like why? Why?
Mm, mm. I have a really, it's actually one of my groomsmen. Shout out to my man Mike, but me and him would argue about this all of the time, right? And actually, most of my inner circle of friends, we argue about this all the time about, you know, realizing what's important, right? And something what you just said resonated with me because health is extremely valuable, right? And you don't realize how valuable it is until you lose it, right? But we chase so many,
This year.
huh?
I had two surgeries this year. Back, and it was like You don't got your help, you don't got nothing.
Facts, right? But it takes people to remind you of those things that we have sometimes, because the world will always make you, and sometimes not even the world, sometimes ourselves. Our
Right.
inner desire is always to chase other things. And most of my friends love me because I have this thing about me that wills everybody back in and say, focus on the thing that you have in front of you. You got
Hmm.
healthy kids. There's so many people out here in the world who don't. You have a spouse, you have a relationship. The water is greener where you water it. Did I say that right? The grass is greener where you water it, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, having those people in your inner circle, I think, help you to thrive and flourish. But it also goes back to what you said about legacy. It's not just about what you can build for yourself, but how you are spreading that and helping other people to find their own level of success that measures you. And I have to say, as a friend and as a fan, because I'm a fan. I'm, what do you call it? A stan. You know, I love to watch you in action, and I love to see you work. And I realize that there's no shortness of what can still come and what still will be. So I have to say, congratulations to you thus far for all that you've done and all that you will continue to do in creating a new legacy for your family. Because I think that dealing with survivor's guilt, or being the person who makes the transition, right? There's a whole nother set of pressures and boulders on your shoulder now got to carry everybody else and navigating that space. And I can only imagine how difficult that is for you. So I want to say, I want to wish you continued success, because I know that it exists. And I also know that having a supportive team around you is huge. Keep doing what you're doing, brother. I love it.
No, I appreciate you. Let me give you your flowers and document it on wax, man. So, Rel, I want to say I appreciate all you've done. I talked to certain people about conversations that I remember when I was either becoming an alpha or I just became an alpha. And one of the things that you had said was when I was coming to the model program, you was like, hey, you can't just show up and then not show up again. And you were like, these kids call you rock star. When you're not here, they ask for you. They want to know where you are. They want to know what you're doing, because not only have they become attached to, you as your name, but you as a person, you as a mentor, you as their support. And I think there was a time where I was like, I'm going to model every single chance I get, because that stuck with me. And now mentoring other, adults at this point and community members. And when you don't show up, people notice. They ask for you. They want to know where you are. So I always remember that. And I always carry that with me. And it's like, what happens when you don't show up? So even when I was going through what I was going with the family, our community was like, yo, hey, you guys still showed up for us, right? And you guys still supported us, even though you were doing what you were doing. So I always remember that. And that's one of those tidbits that I just, take little pieces from. And I always remember that conversation we had. So now I appreciate you, Rel, man. And I want to give you your flowers, and obviously supporting, Black men for all of these years, man. I'm one of those Black men that you've supported, that you've helped groom. So I appreciate it, and I want to thank you as well.
Hey, listen, man. I've learned to accept compliments. It used to be very, very difficult, right? I've learned to accept them. So I truly appreciate it. And coming from you, it means a lot. But bro, when I say that it's an honor to know you, I mean that from the depths of my soul. It's an honor to be your frat brother. But I'm excited to see what you and the wife continue to cook up, because y'all always starting trouble over here in the Hughes household. Because it's like, well, if they could do it, we can do it. So
That's
so
it, man.
thank you for the fire up underneath the butt and the extra motivation, because it's definitely changed my own family's trajectory. And that's what you can get when you have reciprocity in your relationships. So to find Anthony Hartzog on all things social media, because he already told y'all the place to be. Of course, if you can be disciplined enough, is social media to network with people. How do people find you, Ant?
Yeah, they could just follow us on social media at the Hartrimony. That's TheHartrimony. If they found value in this episode, make sure they leave you a 5-star review. If they found us on social media, shoot us a DM and let us know, if they got any value, any gain from it. And we're always willing to support and help however we can. Any questions, comments, concerns, that's where they can reach out.
All right. Hey, listen, you heard it best from the man, the myth, the legend himself. And I'm gonna give you back the rest of your day, bro. But I'm extremely thankful for the time that you've given to us, and I can't wait to get your story out to the people. Enjoy the rest of your day, my boy.
I appreciate you, Ro.
All right. Oh six.
6.
It's for all of the trials and tribulations. Just look at my mom made it. I said I was gonna change it, I did. And I know that we all destined for greatness. No matter what you've been facing, it's a marathon, no, it's not a sprint. It's for all of the trials and tribulations. Just look at my mom made it. I said I was gonna change it, I did. And I know that we all destined for greatness. No matter what you've been facing, it's a marathon, no, it's not a sprint. Trying to change for the better, oh my city, see the difference. From the mamas to the children, every one of us is gifted.